was in high school, my sister was dating Barry O, Bob Orton Jr.'s brother, and so I went to a few matches with her, and I was wrestling in school and living with my sister at that time, and she introduced me to Barry. And it's funny because Barry come in drunk one night and was wrestling with me, and I kind of got the best of him, and he took me and introduced me to Malenko.
Okay. I guess to you, how much of an influence was Buddy Rogers? Were you a fan of the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers early on in your career?
I never even knew who Buddy Rogers was. I didn't. I had not a clue who Buddy Rogers was until I actually broke in the business. And I was always a Ric Flair fan, but I never really knew who Ric Flair was, because that's how insulated that the territories were. You know, people in Knoxville didn't have that. We didn't have a clue who. We didn't have a clue who Ric Flair was, or anybody outside of our territory, Knoxville and through there. So,
right.
Unless the world champion, whoever the world champion was, they would come and do that. But we didn't even have a clue who. I didn't have a clue who Buddy Rogers was.
Gotcha. So how did you actually break into the business? And let's talk about the training and the Malenkos, and you were introduced.
Yeah, when Barry Orton introduced me to Malenko, he had trials. There was like 25 guys that tried out, and I was one of the 25, and I was actually the only guy that made it. And so I started training with Malenko then. It was about 6 months of training every day, and we'd go down to the Tom Black track in Knoxville, University of Tennessee football stadium there. And we worked out, and he would not teach you how to even lock up until you had to be able to run 5 miles and do 500 squats and 500 push-ups at the same time without stopping. And when you did that, that's when he would teach you how to lock up.
Did you see a lot of guys quitting early?
Everybody quit the first day.
Wow.
We had to run like 2 miles. Had to run like 2 miles the first day. And everybody dropped out, and I was the only guy, you know. Then we had to pay, I think in 1979, I think I paid something like $1,500 back then, 30 years ago, to break in.
Wow.
The business, yeah.
Did you see Malenko stretch anybody?
No, because I was the only one. I was the only one that he was training.
Right.
There was no stretching going on.
Wasn't anything like the Andersons' way of school.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I was training the Dirty White Boy, Daryl Anthony, that I actually went to school with, high school with. He was training with Rick Connors, which was a great guy. He's trained a lot of guys. But, you know, in wrestling, your calling card is who trained you.
Right.
You know, if you've got a big name that trained you, it kind of opened doors for you. So I used to watch them train over there a little bit. Malenko would get on me and say, "Dad, don't worry about the crap they're doing. You know, just listen to what I'm doing." And Malenko and I would wrestle around a little bit, and I never could, you know, do much with him. I mean, he was a hoss. He was pretty stout.
Would you consider Malenko your mentor, pretty much?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would consider he's the one that broke me in, but Bob Roop was probably my mentor because I lived with Molly and Bob Roop.
I was going to ask you, what are your memories of living with Bob Roop?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just got kind of a crash course. By then, they had the split in Knoxville, where Bob Roop and Orton Jr., Garvin, Savage, and all of those guys broke away from Fuller and the Armstrongs and Dick Slater and Kevin Sullivan, all of those guys. So when I broke into business, I actually thought wrestling was real because these guys were carrying guns in the car. They were making open challenges to each other.
That was the company split. Yeah,
the company split. I mean, it was an actual what I would become to know later is shoot. So they were shooting, and I didn't even know what a shoot was. All I know is that Bob Roop and those guys were training every day. I mean, they were drinking Miller Lite and eating popcorn and just training every day and dropped a lot of weight fast. And Ronnie Garvin had a Bayliner yacht. He would put the tie a rope around the front of the boat, put it around his chest, and swim the boat all over. These guys just stayed in tremendous shape, and they were making challenges and threats to these guys every night. So I mean, at this time now, this is in the 6-month period that I'm training, and I had no idea that this business was a work. I had no idea.
Wow.
Because Malenko never smartened me up. Never talked about the Brit. Never broke kayfabe. Never broke kayfabe, and never talked about the business. So I mean, I'm just kind of like an errand boy a little bit, setting the ring up and learning that aspect of it. And being around Bob Roop and those guys, Bob was a little bit more open, but they still were kayfabing me, and I thought it was a shoot.
Who smartened you up? Was that just happen over time, or
just happened a little bit over time? Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
As far as the training goes, what to you was the most difficult thing to pick up? Would it be the bumping, the psychology?
Probably the psychology was the toughest. I was an athlete all my life, so the moves came fairly easy once you learned them.
Right.
I mean, there's only so many variations of, a headlock that you can do. But what I did was I picked stuff that I thought that guys. If a guy did something that looked really good, I would steal it from him. Like Leaping Lanny did the most beautiful, snatched a headlock. So I adapted my headlock from him. My punches, I tried to adapt from, Bob Orton Jr. And so on. But the psychology was once the psychology is something you either have or you don't have. You really can't teach anybody. If they don't have it and they ain't never going to have it, there ain't no way to teach it to them.
Right.
They're pretty much stuck at being first, second match or whatever. But psychology is something that a main event guy's got to have.
Let's go talk about your promos and how you crafted your skills for cutting promos, because to me you're one of the best promo guys out there. Especially from Memphis and the old Mid-Atlantic territory. Who taught you how to craft your promos, or was it something that you just picked up?
Nobody. Bill Watts taught me. If you look, like I told you earlier in the taping, that I tried to take from each guy. That's what killed me when I finally went to New York. Those guys. It seemed like guys in the South had it a lot better than the guys in the North. The guys in the North, they had the cue cards and this, that, and the other, and people telling them what to say. And they go over their match and go over what they were going to talk about. I never thought of it. I had an idea of the subject. What is the subject that I'm going to talk about? What is the town? And then I would think back, do I have an angle? Do I have heat? Or have we done something? We're going back into this town, because see, it's totally different. Like let me give you for instance, like Bill Watts' TV. We would do our TVs, and then he would have the TV sheets there, right? Now let's say 2 weeks ago, I got busted open and was bleeding, Well, Bill Watts liked this about guys when they pick this up. See, I would look and say, okay, listen, I'm going to do this town tonight. Okay, when was I there last? And this is just how I think, okay? I would think, well, I was there 2 weeks ago. Well, what did I do 2 weeks ago? Oh, I was busted open. So this TV that I'm getting ready to do, this is the first time they've seen me, and they actually think it's right after that match. So what I would do was I would go in the bathroom, and I'd put a Band-Aid on, because it would make sense that the last time they saw me that I was bleeding. A lot of guys didn't do that, but I just always kind of, used my mind a little bit more and opened my mind up. And I thought, to me, what I did was I just thought a lot, I thought what would it be like being a fan? What would I like to hear? What would piss me off? What would make me laugh as being a fan?
Right.
And that's the way that I always thought.